Hello and welcome to today's episode of Language Mastery. I'm Sarah, your host, and I'm thrilled to be discussing one of our most requested topics, how to become fluent in English. If you've ever felt stuck in your English learning journey or found yourself freezing up during conversations, today's episode is especially for you.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. I'm Dr. James Wilson, a language acquisition specialist with over 15 years of experience helping students achieve fluency. I'm excited to share some practical strategies that actually work in the real world.
Dr. Wilson, let's jump right in. Many of our listeners struggle with conversation skills. They understand English when they read it, but speaking is a whole different challenge. What's your advice for developing better conversation skills?
Great question. The foundation of good conversation skills is actually listening. Most learners don't realize that listening creates what I call a body of experience for your brain. When you listen to natural speech patterns regularly, your brain begins to internalize them. I recommend at least 30 minutes of active listening daily. Podcasts like this one are perfect.
That's interesting. So listening comes before speaking. But at some point, you have to actually start talking, right?
Absolutely. And that's where many learners get stuck. They wait for the perfect moment when they'll suddenly speak flawlessly. But that moment never comes. You need to embrace what I call imperfect fluency. Allow yourself to make mistakes and focus on communication rather than perfection.
I love that term, imperfect fluency. Can you give our listeners some specific exercises they can try to practice their conversation skills?
One effective technique is shadowing. Listen to a short audio clip of a native speaker, then try to repeat it with the same intonation and rhythm. Another approach is to record yourself speaking for just 2-3 minutes daily about any topic, what you had for breakfast, your plans for the day, anything at all. When you listen back, don't focus on mistakes, just notice your progress over time.
Those are great suggestions that anyone can implement. Let's shift gears and talk about vocabulary building. Many of our listeners say they struggle to remember new words. Any strategies for more effective vocabulary acquisition?
Vocabulary building is all about context and connections. Our brains retain words better when they're meaningful to us. Instead of memorizing random word lists, I recommend thematic learning. Focus on vocabulary related to topics you're interested in. If you love cooking, learn kitchen terms. If you're into technology, learn tech vocabulary.
That makes sense. Learn words you'll actually use.
Exactly. Another powerful technique is semantic mapping. When you learn a new word, connect it to words you already know. For example, if you learn ecstatic, connect it to happy and joyful, but note that it's more intense. Also identify an antonym, like miserable. These connections create a network in your brain that makes retrieval easier.
I've never thought about word learning that way. What about those language apps that are so popular now? Are they effective for vocabulary building?
Apps can be helpful supplements, but they shouldn't be your only method. The research shows that extensive reading is still one of the best ways to build vocabulary naturally. I recommend what I call pleasure reading. Books, articles, or blogs that you genuinely enjoy, slightly below your current level, so you understand about 90% of the words.
That brings us to our final topic, which might be the most important, confidence building. So many learners tell me they know the words, but freeze up when it's time to speak. How can they overcome this fear?
This is such a common issue, and it's largely psychological. First, remember that native speakers are usually very forgiving of language learners. They're typically impressed that you're speaking their language at all.
That's true. I'm always amazed when someone speaks even basic English as their second or third language.
Exactly. Another confidence-building technique is to prepare what I call conversation islands, topics you're comfortable discussing. Practice talking about your hobbies, your work, your family, or your country until those conversations feel natural. These become safe havens in conversations where you can redirect if you're feeling overwhelmed.
I love that strategy. And what about practicing with other non-native speakers? Is that helpful, or should learners try to practice with native speakers?
Both have value. Practicing with other learners can actually reduce anxiety because you're in the same boat. Language exchange partners are great for this. You help them with your native language, They help you with English. But don't shy away from conversations with native speakers when possible. Those interactions push your skills forward.
Before we wrap up, could you share what you think is the single most important thing for English learners to remember on their fluency journey?
Consistency trumps intensity every time. 15 minutes of daily practice is far more effective than a 3-hour cramming session once a week. Make English a part of your everyday routine. Listen during your commute. Read before bed. Speak to yourself while cooking. Small, regular efforts compound dramatically over time.
That's wonderful advice and something our listeners can start implementing today. Dr. Wilson, thank you so much for sharing these practical strategies for improving conversation skills, building vocabulary, and developing confidence in speaking English.
It's been my pleasure, Sarah. Remember, everyone, fluency isn't a destination. It's a journey. Embrace the process, be patient with yourself, and celebrate small victories along the way.
That's all for today's episode of Language Mastery. If you found this helpful, please subscribe to our podcast and share it with friends who are on their own language learning journey. Until next time, keep practicing, stay curious, and remember, perfect is the enemy of good. Happy learning!